Salamat mga kapwang Pinoy. Magkita tayo bukas.
Alex Eala is dynamic in DC again. An outstanding performance from the Filipina as she beats Svitolina for the second time in as many months.
Somewhere in Washington tonight, a stadium full of strangers became one family. Somewhere in Manila, phones lit up in the middle of the night, one after another, like a wave nobody could stop. And somewhere on a tennis court in America, a 21-year-old girl from Pasig City just did something her country will remember for the rest of her life. Alex Eala beat a top 10 player tonight. Again. 6-3, 6-4. Not a lucky escape, not a miracle. A statement, delivered set by set, in front of a crowd that never once stopped believing. If you're watching this, and you were up at 6:30 in the morning Manila time, phone in hand, heart in your throat, watching a Filipina take down one of the best players in the world, you already know exactly what this feeling is. It's the feeling of watching history happen live. So before we get into how she did it, take a second. Breathe. Because what you just watched wasn't only a tennis match. It was a country's decades-long wait. Finally, beautifully, answered. Here's what happened. First set, 6-3. Clean. Controlled. Eala setting the terms from the very first game, taking the ball early, giving Svitolina no rhythm to settle into. Second set, and this is where it turned into something you don't just watch, you feel. Svitolina fought like the four-time Grand Slam semifinalist she is. Serving to stay in the match, she saved 2 match points, clawing her way to deuce, forcing the crowd to hold its breath all over again just when they thought it was already over. That is exactly the kind of moment that separates a real champion from a name on a bracket. She was not going quietly. But Eala did not blink either. She came right back, earned another chance, and this time there was no saving it. 6-4. The moment that final point landed, the entire stadium rose to its feet at once, like a single body reacting to a single heartbeat. Watch the crowd in that stadium during these moments. Watch the Filipino flags rising higher with every single point. Watch strangers who arrived alone suddenly hugging whoever was standing next to them, because for a few hours, nobody in that section was a stranger anymore. They were countrymen. They were family. They were 115 million people compressed into a few thousand seats, all breathing together, all hoping together. Listen to it too if you can. The chants that started low and built with every hold of serve. The gasp on every long rally. The roar that didn't just rise, it seemed to hang in the air a second longer than a normal cheer, like nobody wanted that feeling to end so quickly. That's the part statistics will never capture. You can write down the score. You cannot write down what it feels like to hear an entire section of a stadium hold its breath on a single point, then explode together when she wins it. It's worth pausing for a moment on the woman standing across the net too, because this loss will sting in a specific way for her. Before tonight, Svitolina had spoken honestly about what this match meant. She called it a new surface, a new country, a new challenge, and said she hoped to carry confidence forward from her win the night before. And she was chasing her first semi-final since winning a big title in Rome back in May, hoping to prove that result wasn't a peak already behind her. Tonight, for the second time this year, that hope ran straight into Alex Eala, and for the second time, Eala was simply the better player when it mattered most. This win matters far beyond one scoreline. 3 matches into this Washington run, against an Olympic gold medalist, a defending champion, and now a genuine top 10 player, and Alex Eala has not lost once. She beat Svitolina in Berlin last month. Tonight she beat her again, on an entirely different surface, in an entirely different country. 2 wins over the same top 10 opponent, on grass and now on hard courts, in the same season. That is not luck. Luck does not repeat itself against a 4-time Grand Slam semifinalist. That is a young woman who has quietly, patiently, built something real. Somewhere along the way, beating a top 10 player stopped being the exception and started being simply what happens when Alex Eala plays her game and lets it hold up under pressure. That shift, from hoping to win to expecting to win, is the single hardest transformation in professional sport, and almost nobody gets to skip the years of doubt required to make it. She didn't skip them either. She just came out the other side of them faster than anyone predicted. Remember where this story actually started. A grandfather in Pasig City, with a basket of tennis balls, showing up every single day with no proof any of this would happen. No professional coaching license. No connections to the WTA. Just a man named Lolo Bob who loved his grandchildren enough to stand on a court every single afternoon and feed ball after ball to a little girl who hadn't yet shown the world what she'd become. He passed away in 2019. He never saw Miami. He never saw Wimbledon. He never saw any of this. But she has said it herself, that so much of her foundation, her mentality, her bravery on court, comes from the tough love and sacrifice he gave her. A 13-year-old who flew to Spain with no blueprint, and no one who had ever walked that road before her. A 19-year-old ranked 140th in the world who got dismantled in Rome and quietly went right back to work. Rafael Nadal, the man who runs the academy that took her in as a young teenager, once told her simply to keep dreaming. Tonight, she gave him one more reason to say it again. Every one of those moments is inside tonight's win. You could see it in the way she carried herself even in the tensest points. Calm, present, like someone who has already survived worse than a tight second set against a top 10 opponent. She is now into the semifinals of the Mubadala DC Open, 1 win away from a WTA Tour final, 2 wins away from the first tour-level title of her career. In the same summer she became the first Filipino ever seeded at Wimbledon. Waiting for her there is the winner of Naomi Osaka and Elizabetta Cocchiaretto, another massive name standing between her and history. Let that fully land for a moment. There's a quieter number behind all of this too, one that matters just as much as the trophy itself. Every round Eala advances this week pushes her closer to a career-high ranking, and closer to a seed at the US Open next month, a milestone no Filipina has ever reached at a Grand Slam. Tonight wasn't just a win for pride, it was a mathematical step toward history that hasn't been written yet. You could call every one of these wins this week an upset, an Olympic champion, a defending champion, and now a top 10 player, all in the span of days. But at some point, that word stops being accurate. An upset is something that happens to a favorite on a strange afternoon. What Alex Eala is doing right now is not an afternoon. It's a pattern. It's a climate. And climates don't reverse themselves overnight. Look at the full list now. Elena Rybakina in Berlin. Elina Svitolina, twice, in 2 different countries, on 2 different surfaces. Iga Swiatek, the defending champion, on center court at Wimbledon. Zheng Qinwen, an Olympic gold medalist, just days ago. Leylah Fernandez, a defending champion, the very next day. And now Svitolina again, closing out the week in style. That is not a list of surprises. That is a resume. And if her upcoming semifinal opponent turns out to be Naomi Osaka, a 4-time Grand Slam champion herself, it would only add one more enormous name to a list that already reads like the who's who of women's tennis. A country that had never had a single woman crack the WTA Top 100 is now watching one of its own stand 2 matches from a WTA title, on American soil, in front of a stadium that has learned every word of her name. And it isn't only Manila watching. It's Filipino nurses finishing night shifts in Riyadh, checking their phones between patients. It's seafarers somewhere in the middle of an ocean, catching a signal just long enough to see the score. It's construction workers in the Gulf, students in Europe, families in Los Angeles and Toronto and Vancouver, all pulling out their phones at the exact same moment, in a dozen different time zones, united by one scoreline. That is the real size of what just happened tonight. It didn't stay in one stadium. It didn't even stay in one country. To every Filipino watching this at an impossible hour, phone in hand, half asleep but wide awake at the same time, this win is yours too. You didn't just watch it, you carried her through it, the same way fans have carried her through every round of this tournament, filling the stands, filling the comment sections, filling time zones with prayers and predictions and pure, uncomplicated pride. This is what it looks like when a country finally gets to see itself standing at the very top of a sport it was never supposed to belong in. Not because someone handed it to them, because one girl, one grandfather, one basket of tennis balls, and years of quiet, unglamorous work built it, point by point, until it couldn't be denied anymore. Alex Eala didn't just win a tennis match tonight. She gave an entire nation a reason to stay up until sunrise, hearts racing, flags waving, and not regret a single minute of it. Somewhere tonight, a child in the Philippines fell asleep with a tennis racket leaning against their bed for the first time, dreaming of a court they've never stood on, because of a match they watched on a screen too small to hold all that feeling. That is the real scoreline of tonight. Not 6-3, 6-4. The other one. The one that counts in believers, not games. If you want to be here for the semi-final, subscribe now, because this story is not slowing down. It is only getting bigger. Drop a comment right now if you were watching live. Tell us where you're watching from, and how it felt the moment that final point landed. Manila, Cebu, Riyadh, Dubai, Toronto. Wherever you are, tell us. Because tonight, distance didn't matter. Time zones didn't matter. For a few hours, every single Filipino watching this match was sitting courtside, together.